we have created this society. Not each one of us, but our past generations. We have those and us have created this present immoral, destructive society. And we are trapped by that society. That society is made by each one of us. So we are responsible for that society. Whether it is possible not to change society, but is it possible to radically, deeply transform our conditioning, which is understand deeply our consciousness, which is what we are. Is it possible to transform not into something, but to change, bring about a mutation in the very structure and nature of our consciousness? That is the problem. That is the crisis. It's not political crisis, economic crisis, or the crisis of war. But the crisis is in ourselves.
The only real danger that exists is man himself. He is the great danger, and we are pitifully unaware of it. We are the origin of all coming evil.
The Earth, our home, a planet teeming with life, a place of great beauty and of great wonder. A world where ecosystem within fragile ecosystem combines to create a complex and delicately balanced web of life. A sympathetic mesh where the harmonious state of each organism is ultimately dependent upon the condition of the rest. A web in which the continued survival of each delicate strand rests entirely upon its symbiotic relationship with the environment in which it exists. Certainly the web of life has always been a fragile one, and yet for millennia it always functioned perfectly, as everything within it held its own unique place and purpose. Within this web also dwells mankind. According to ancient Vedic texts, in times long past, man too lived in complete harmony with nature. For man also held his own place and purpose within the web. And so it continued for countless years, until there appeared upon the earth a new mindset in the consciousness of humankind. And with that mindset came a new type of organism. With that mindset came civilization and a system of organised rule based deeply in social structure. How much do we truly know about the past? There are, of course, a great many books that have been written on this subject by a myriad of scholars from the modern era. But how much do we really know to be true? Many books written in modern times are simply the author's interpretation of other books written previously by other scholars. But regardless of what is written in any book, the truth is that all of the information we currently have about our past is mysterious and fragmented at best. The theories presented in history books typically offer humanity a very orderly view of the past. And because these theories are presented to mankind hypnotically in printed form, most people automatically believe these concepts to be true. Yet upon further inspection, when one lifts their eyes from the printed page and looks deeper into the reality of their surroundings, quite a different picture emerges. And what about civilization itself? The Oxford Dictionary describes civilization as the process by which a society or place reaches an advanced stage of social development and organisation. But how often does one ever pause to consider the questions of where civilization originally came from and how advanced it actually is? Obviously, human beings are very resourceful creatures, and human ingenuity should not be underestimated. It is certainly reasonable to assume, for example, that groups of humans would form themselves into tribes and clans, by which means all involved would benefit. But how did such groups then lead to something as entirely uncivilized and wantonly destructive as civilization as it exists today? Was it simply a natural progression? And if civilization didn't present a big enough issue, we are also presented with the question of technology. Where did it actually come from? Who was it who first pulled a rock from the ground and decided to crush it down to its component parts, isolate those parts, and refine them into metals? In fact, how is the concept of metals even known, let alone the methods that are required for the extraction and refinement of such things? Would you, if left to your own devices, ever come up with a thing like metallurgy? Would you come up with advanced science, spy satellites, or nuclear weapons? How did such inventions as these ever become part of the human psyche? But it doesn't stop at advanced technology. For in order for civilization to function efficiently, by necessity, civilization itself brought with it yet another organism, something more hidden, more mysterious, and more insidious than its parent. What it brought with it was a meme. A meme is described by the Oxford English Dictionary as an element of a culture or system of behaviour passed from one individual to another by imitation or other non-genetic means. Isn't this an exact description of the system that currently controls humanity? Is it not a fact that when looking at modern civilization and the social, political, financial and legal systems that dictate the behaviour of those within it, what we observe is a system of control that is wholly fictitious? Is it not a fact that it is a system that functions entirely due to people's belief that the system itself is real? It is a system based entirely upon fear, and a system that continues to function solely due to the energy it receives from the human beings within it. Yet the system itself is simply a meme.
You are me. We are them. I am free.
We begin life with the world simply presenting itself to us. A reality that is open to individual interpretation. But then, at a very early age, we are taught to perceive things in a certain predetermined and socially acceptable way. The process begins first at home, where we are influenced by the beliefs, the attitudes, and the behaviour of our parents and siblings. And then, as soon as we are old enough to be capable of independent thought, and have gained an acceptable degree of communication skills, we are immediately placed within a tightly controlled education system, to then begin a process where our minds are carefully and deliberately moulded into a particular way of thinking. A process where little or no deviation from conformity is tolerated. Through a system of constant repetition, we are then taught that the world functions in a certain way. And we are only considered to be functional ourselves when we believe and are able to repeat without question that which has been taught to us during our time within the system. Throughout the entirety of our scholastic years, any independent thought is frowned upon and instilled into each and every student is the belief that our success within the system is wholly dependent upon our ability to regurgitate on command that which has been taught to us. And we are told that upon leaving the education system, our path through life and our standing in reality itself will be determined entirely upon how economically viable our personal endeavours are.
You
We are taught that it is only through profit and through continual financial gain that our personal success will be measured. We are taught that we must either work for someone or we must strive to gain a position in society where someone else will work for us. But either way, all must work. We are essentially taught to be slaves who will spend the majority of life in the pursuit of paper or of digital credits. And through our belief that this system is real, we find ourselves living within a society that has been structured in such a way that were we not to dedicate our time to the accumulation of such things, then all that nature has provided for us, all that nature has provided freely for the benefit of all, will remain forever out of reach. Yet in pursuing such goals in the belief that doing so will enrich our lives, all we do is give power to the meme that enslaves us, and the price we ultimately pay is the connection we once had to the world around us. The price we ultimately pay is life itself. The entire educational, financial, legal, political and social systems that modern human beings are subject to from the moment of birth are all structured with a singularity of purpose: to perpetuate the meme. These systems are designed to ensure that each individual is kept locked into a left brain understanding of the world, is kept disconnected from the reality around them, and that each individual grows into adulthood with the understanding that the meaning of life is the one with the most wins. But life is not a board game, and there is far more going on in the world around them than most people ever realise, because there is far more going on around them than that which can be perceived by the five senses. In fact, there is an entire language and an entirely different way of communicating with creation that is readily available to all. Only due to the solely left brain perception of reality that has been forced upon them since birth, most people do not even realize such things exist. And it has been so long since most of humanity accessed and used these higher senses that they've simply forgotten the language.
When you look at the brain, it's obvious that the two cerebral cortices are completely separate from one another. Our right hemisphere functions like a parallel processor, while our left hemisphere functions like a serial processor. Because they process information differently, each of our hemispheres think about different things, they care about different things, and dare I say, they have very different personalities. Our right hemisphere, it thinks in pictures, and it learns kinesthetically through the movement of our bodies. Information in the form of energy streams in simultaneously through all of our sensory systems, and then it explodes into this enormous collage of what this present moment looks like, smells like, and tastes like, what it feels like, and what it sounds like. I am an energy being connected to the energy all around me through the consciousness of my right hemisphere. My left hemisphere, our left hemisphere, is a very different place. Our left hemisphere thinks linearly and methodically. Our left hemisphere is all about the past, and it's all about the future. Our left hemisphere is designed to take that enormous collage of the present moment and start picking out details, and more details about those details. It then categorizes and organizes all that information, associates it with everything in the past we've ever learned, and projects into the future all of our possibilities. And our left hemisphere thinks in language. It's that ongoing brain chatter that connects me and my internal world to my external world. But perhaps most important, it's that little voice that says to me, I am. I am. And as soon as my left hemisphere says to me, I am, I become separate. I become a single, solid individual, separate from the energy flow around me and separate from you.
We have up here just an entire colony of bees creating some type of amazing magnetic force field around this tree. And this tree is transmitting whatever that is to the ground that I'm sitting on. Whatever this language is that's coming from all these insects, all these species, to and from the earth, back and forth. It's incredible, and the amount of communication that goes into it. We still, for some reason, think that we are the center of the universe, even though we try to pretend that we're not. Somehow we think that everything that happens around here, all the species, they have whatever scientific evidence that we understand. These species pollinate this, those species do this, do that, and the other. And as long as we take care of the species that we need, as long as we take care of all the ecosystems that will sustain us as humanity on this earth, then we'll be fine. Without understanding that if you were to look at it as this spherical spider web, 360 degrees, we're just a small little portion of it. And yeah, maybe a couple 100,000, maybe 1 million threads or webs would contact us. But when you branch it out and you understand that this entire web is connected to another spot, and there's 100,000 pieces that connected